Well, it's
Thank you, by the
time
way.
to go. Welcome to Torn Tuesday, your weekly dose of all things Lord of the Rings. My name's Justin.
And my name's Clifford. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our weekly show. This is the OneRing.net, forged by and for the fans of J.R.R. Tolkien. There's a little bit of a glitch. It looks like someone put a gremlin in the microwave. What happened over here, Justin? Are you okay? Are you with us?
Yeah,
I
I
think you're
hope
with us.
so.
Okay.
What we were just talking about before we went on the air, that Zoom and OBS updated their softwares, and we always have
Indeed.
glitches on the show. Usually it's user error, but I cannot promise what's going to happen this week.
No,
Oh,
this is
so much.
exceptionally. We got stuff to talk about, so I hope we can stay. I hope we can stay on the air. Hello, everybody. We can talk about Tom Bombadil at great length. We can talk about the other mischief and rumors we've been hearing, and
We've got some
also,
new Green Dragon gossip, and we can talk about everything we learned from yesterday's big
yes,
Showrunners Speak All article, which, Cliff, I've been teasing for at least 3 weeks. Been working on it, just listening to every
hmm
podcast, reading every article. I told you guys it was coming. I wanted to get it out before Christmas. It didn't happen. But
right,
I hope you guys
yes,
find it enlightening. Not that we're gonna talk about it later in the show. But Cliff, did you find that article interesting? Did you
I
learn
did.
anything?
Oh, greatly. It was greatly interesting. Come on, it was greatly fascinating to get what would be the kind of perspective we would hope to get if we had the opportunity, which has yet to manifest. It has not happened yet, but if we had the opportunity to sit and chat with Patrick and JD, those are the kinds of questions and the kind of with a lot of rigor, a very rigorous and intellectual approach. We would talk about the thematic work they were doing, the approach to writing that they were doing on the Rings of Power, and all that stuff. And yet, failing that, here we have this amazing collection that Justin has helped put together editorially. It's really fascinating to see all these uh, real comments from these different podcasts and other interviews and things. What a perspective we have now on how much extra legwork the audience was expected to do to be able to keep up with, all these planned surprises that
Right.
that
Well,
was in season one. And so we learned something valuable. And we'll talk about this later on in the show, but we did learn something intrinsic about their approach to the whole endeavor. And we'll get to that. We'll get to that
yeah,
later.
and
Yeah,
yes, and it's only positive vibes moving forward. The chat room is here. We
of
are
course.
live on YouTube and Twitch and Facebook and everywhere else we can be. I see some of our regulars. Jeff Scott says hi from Kiwi Land. Hello, Jeff Scott. The Hobbit actor is in the chat room. Pipske is here. Hello, Pipske, Monica, Otaku Senpai, Marisol is on Twitch or no
Hello,
Discord.
everybody. Hello. Look at all these wonderful people joining us. It's really
Yeah,
fantastic.
Sarah Draper's in here. I love seeing all these familiar faces. Now, before we get started, I have to say that our Discord has been on fire the last
hmm
week. There hasn't been an hour that the conversation has died down. This really is starting to feel like 20 years ago IRC. The
Oh, that's
Discord
hold
is
on.
just so much going on. The conversations are happening. Anytime there's a leak or rumor or a whisper YouTube video, whether it's from Fellowship of Fans or on Reddit or Nerd of the Rings or even from our show, the fans talk about it, debate it, whether it's valid, whether they think it's valid. Again, everything is rumors right now. And to be clear, as far as we know, the last we heard is that season 2 of Rings of Power is currently scheduled to come out. Earliest is spring next year, but more likely fall next year. More likely September of next year. That's what we're hearing. So that is almost 2 years. That's a year and a half. Plenty of time to change their minds. Plenty of time to reshoot things. Plenty of time to delete leaks.
Look at you.
Look
at you.
That is plenty of it's plenty of time. If something leaks and they change their mind, they're like, "Oh, the fans figured it out. Let's not do that." The J.J. Abrams style of filmmaking, then they can do that. Nampat.
Yes. Okay. I Nampat. I love that so much. Okay. Look. Look, Mythrandir. You can hear my cat Myth in the background being rather vocal. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. That's what happens when there's a vocal cat wizard floating around in your house. The impact of season 1 is still being felt. I personally have yet to publish my review, my full review, and my cogent, if there are any cogent thoughts left in this brain, on what I felt and how I responded personally. Matt, Nerd of the Rings, also has yet to publish his season 1 review. There's a lot of us in the Tolkien blogosphere who are just absorbing it and taking in with mild amusement some of the other reactions that fans are having. But it is invigorating. I see some of the most interesting conversations still on Twitter, even though Twitter has turned into a weird mess because of its own internal problems. I still see a lot of healthy and interesting, invigorating conversation with, Daily Rings of Power and with Tea with Tolkien and Corey Olsen and other people who still manage to get some really invigorating thoughts about the Haladriel. There's a lot of talk about Haladriel, and as much as it may or may not have been controversial, it's still caused a lot of healthy conversation. There are hardcore fans of the Rings of Power who are actually able to sit in the middle of the road with others who are critical and say, well, some of this was really great and some of this was not so great, but here's what I really like about the dynamism of Sauron disguising himself in order to get Galadriel to a point of opening the door to redemption for him. And so the showrunners obviously wanted to give us season 1 of the Rings of Power built around what we tend to call redemption Sauron. This is not yet the twisted, vermin, black-hearted Dark Lord of the late Third Age. This is Second Age Sauron, who ostensibly and arguably still has a moral gray area of his own, where he would not answer the call to go back to Valinor to atone for his sins, working with Morgoth in the First Age. Instead, we get a Sauron who wants to take an alternative path to make his own atonement and make his own redemption. The doorway for that Sauron in Rings of Power was clearly Galadriel. That was the doorway for him. In the books, Professor Tolkien has told us that there was one and only one way, a singular way, for a repentant Sauron to get to a point where atonement would be worth anything for him. And that was to go back to Valinor, make himself beholden to the judgment of the High Valar, Manwë himself. And he was afraid to do that. And then Sauron was so afraid to do that because his pride certainly came into the mix. So we get this season 1 of Rings of Power, which is dealing with, atonement Sauron or contrition Sauron. And Galadriel was never explicitly written about in the pages of Tolkien as ever being involved in that type of a relationship, even in the periphery, in having that kind of conversation with Sauron. And there's nothing in Tolkien that said that Sauron would disguise himself as someone else in order to get the doorway open to his own atonement and his forgiveness, a process that Sauron wanted to take on via Galadriel, and he had to dupe her. He actually had to dupe Galadriel in order to get where he wanted to go with this it seemed a bit strange, and I struggle with my feelings about this on how season one was so heavily wrapped around that Haladriel, you know, Halbrand Galadriel thing. But it's really popular on the internet, and people are still vigorously talking about it and enjoying talking about it. I personally would have preferred that, a contrite Sauron who really did want to make the real spiritual effort for atonement. I would have liked it if Sauron had been the one sent back on the boat to go to Valinor, and he was about to go and do it, and he was the one who jumped ship at the last second, not Galadriel. You know what I mean? It would have been really interesting if Sauron had a conversation with the other Maya, I forget his name, who came and told Sauron in Middle-earth, you need to go back and seek the judgment of Manwë and do it right. And it would have been so interesting if Sauron was the one who was about ready to go back to Valinor, and then he chickened out and he decided to go and find another way to get whatever he wanted done within himself. So, if you're talking about, atonement to Sauron, this is what we got in season one.
Well,
and
it's
all
all
about
in the chat room.
Galadriel's relationship with him. And I thought that was a very interesting, but not always the most workable and not the best choice, I think. But that's just me. That's just my opinion. Go on.
There's a comment in the chat room from Discord that says it feels very forced, like they thought we need a couple so the internet can ship them. I partially agree with that. Look, we had talked.
That's part of building fan culture. Why is it your storytelling has to be blockaded or limited by we want to build a fan culture around it? That shouldn't be the parameters of your writing.
2022 should be the death knell of that way of thinking. The most memed movie, Morbius.
Yes.
Utter failure at the box office.
But that was all least it was memed because people were deriding it. All right. People are memeing the hell out of Rings of Power because they love it, or they're having a love-hate relationship with it.
I think it's a little both.
The memes are funny.
The most memed shows and movies were the least successful box office hits last year, and the least memed movies, Avatar, were the most successful movies of all time. So I think we can put this to bed that memes don't make great movies. I will argue that Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings is one of the original meme factories. I think when people started learning Photoshop and everybody got their hands on image macro tools, what was the first meme everybody made? One does not simply go into
Sean
Mordor.
Bean, and one does not simply. It was Sean Bean. Yeah, absolutely.
So
he's the most memed man on the internet, probably. Sean Bean, probably.
I love
that. Look in the chat. Matt, Nerd of the Rings, says, "Crazy idea. We could have shipped Elrond and Celebrian." You know what? You're right, brother. We sure.
Ooh, I don't know who that is they're not in the show.
That would be Elrond's proper wife.
In the books, maybe. But I never saw her in the movies, and she
would become his wife and the mother of Arwen.
We don't have to do that.
The mother of Arwen. Oh, come on.
A couple people, there was a guy in the chat room said he had yet to watch season 1. So I guess, Cliff, if you're putting together your thoughts for a full season 1 review to post on the One Ring, can you answer one question for me?
Sure. And I am, yes. But go ahead. Yes. What's the question?
Is Rings of Power worth watching? Is it worth the 8-hour investment?
Absolutely. It is absolutely a worthy ingredient in the mix of what I like to look at the overall package of popular culture responding to Tolkien. I mean, it's one thing to look at how academia and academics respond to Tolkien. It's another thing to look at how pop culture responds to Professor Tolkien's work. And there's a big dance between both of those things. And it really introduces a lot of interesting ideas. It also introduces, admittedly, some of the stuff in the show is quite daft. It really is. To, paraphrase one of my friends on Twitter, it's worth conversation, though. It's gorgeous, beautifully mounted production. It's earnest, And I'll give the showrunners all the credit in the world for making an unironic and terribly earnest adaptation of Tolkien. It's worth watching, definitely for that, because it will fuel a lot of intellectual and satisfying conversations with your friends about what you like most about Tolkien.
That's right.
And
So
it will definitely cause further examination of what is in the books that makes you so attracted to the stories. So Rings of Power.
There's a couple comments in the chat room
Definitely.
that are saying Rings of Power was a failure and a disservice to Tolkien. Well, there's two statements in that, and both of them are wrong. Rings of Power was not a failure in any capacity. I mean, in any capacity whatsoever. It looks good. It sounds good. The cast looks great. All-star directors, all-star writers. They made choices, and they committed to those choices.
Yes, they did. Yes. And just because some of those choices were disturbing or a little bit problematic, it doesn't mean the show was a failure at all. So that's not an honest,
and the last
intellectual
time,
idea.
The first time we heard that a show was a disservice to Tolkien and people would never watch it is when they replaced Glorfindel with Arwen. And then they put Arwen at Helm's Deep. And then they killed Saruman on a spiked wheel. And then they did something to Faramir, and then they sent Samwise away at the steps. Do I need to go on? All of that was a huge disservice to Tolkien. I think the difference is,
even
and we'll get to this.
They
later in the show
chapter of the choices of Master Samwise. Much of that chapter, yes.
They also cut out the chapter of Tom Bombadil, which we'll get into for a second.
Yes,
but
here we go. We got to get that.
My little point on the Halbrand Galadriel romance is that, Cliff, do you remember our earliest leaks 2 years ago? Over 2 years ago, you and I had heard separately from moles on the set that Galadriel and Sauron would meet. They would, on a raft, they would form a relationship. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, if this wording is wrong, but we were told.
I heard that rumor back in 1999. That was, all joking aside, that was the earliest, absolute confirmed thing that I heard about the show.
The second rumor.
I had to keep my brain clenched and my mouth shut for years.
So we had heard that Galadriel and Sauron form a relationship. The second rumor,
we didn't know what kind of a relationship. Yes, but
that's right. And the second rumor we got was Sauron would not be revealed in season 1.
Yes, that's right.
And we posted both of these rumors when the show came out. Obviously, those two rumors were proven false, but we are hearing more things. And thank you to everybody that joins our Discord that live in New Zealand or not, that are gossipy little gossips. As what we are hearing is that they actually did film a deeper, close relationship with Halbrand and Galadriel, with Sauron and Galadriel, basically. So that was filmed, and then they cut out a lot of it in the edit room,
and they withdrew some of that narrative entirely. Yeah.
And then yesterday, Amazon Prime on their Lord of the Rings Instagram account posted a photo of Galadriel and Halbrand on the raft, basically holding hands, not too aggressively, but not too, adversarially. And the other thing that we heard this weekend is that piece of dialogue at the end of season 1 where Galadriel starts talking about her dead husband, like out of the blue, and she mentions
Theo, talking to Theo
under a tree
after the eruption of Orodruin. Yes,
right. Like almost unprovoked. It made no sense. Why would you be talking about this to a kid? And why would you suddenly have memories or bring that up? Or is did something trigger a memory of Celeborn? I've heard that that was actually a late addition. That was a reshoot. So, according to our earliest rumors, Galadriel and Sauron have a relationship. Whether it got intimate enough for a kiss, we don't know at all. There's no hint or proof or anything. But it was an intimate relationship. Whether it was the intimacy was about a shared power or a shared lust for power or a shared goal or a MacGuffin, that's what was described. So the fact that they supposedly filmed a deeper relationship throughout the season 1, they added the Celeborn line out of the blue without ever hinting throughout the whole season that she had been married or he was even on the scene. There was a potential that they could have introduced Celeborn in season 2 or 3 and they would have like connected, and yeah, it changes the timeline, but you know, it works narratively. And then adding in reshoots, adding the Sauron reveal. Sauron reveals himself to her. That was an added reshoot as well. I truly believe that the original intent was there, that Haladriel was a thing, it was meant to be a thing, and for whatever reason, whether it wasn't really working or the performances were there, maybe they listened to you, Cliff, and Corey Olsen, and Nerd of the Rings, and the rest of the internet. I personally wanted Haladriel. I've been saying for years I wanted. That was the greatest thing. That was the greatest rumor we had. To me,
much to my chagrin, you have been begging for it for years, and I have all this time, without ever backing down from that position, said no. That's an awful idea.
Right. So there you go. I feel like there's a lot of people like me who not necessarily into shipping, but I'm open to relate the relationship type stuff canonically to a show. So the fact that I was into it, you weren't, and then they backed off on it. Many will say wisely. They backed off from that. Creates a show, a season 1 that neither of us totally like. The romance is gone, so I'm kind of like checked out. Like, well, what's the point here? And you just kind of shared your feelings about the whole Haladriel situation, and the fans are eating it up. I think,
and you're telling me, Justin, it's not satisfying enough for you now that you know that it was a misguided attempt for him to get some atonement by reestablishing himself as a powerful entity side by side with one of the good guys. And you're not satisfied with that. And you tell me, yes or no. Is that not satisfying for you?
I think what you described is satisfying, but I feel like they backed away from it. And I wanted to see Galadriel and Sauron get close. I did. I'm on board with that. I think it's an interesting television dynamic.
Yeah, it serves many purposes for television writing and for shipping, for the fans to have something to ship towards. But I think it would be a universally I cannot use strong enough language. I think that's an execrable idea.
All right.
That is such an execrable idea.
And that's why we like this fandom, because we can both find things that we like and don't like. But look,
to put Sauron and Galadriel on a relationship where the established husband, Celeborn, is not even there. The ghost of Martin Sokas is not even in the room. Okay, where is he? Where's Celeborn? It was the first thing that I asked her when I sat down with Morphith Clark.
Her about it.
The first thing I said, Morphith Clark, it's lovely to meet you. Where's your husband? Where is Celeborn? It's the first thing I had. But no,
so rude.
I'm telling you, we can look at Sauron trying to do all kinds of things in the Second Age to grift people and to sucker people and to pull the wool over their eyes. Well, that is what we expected. That's what Tolkien wrote. Never, ever did Tolkien write that Galadriel was almost duped by the almost romantic aspersions. He was
Well, I do. I think they're listening to you. Look. I think Amazon is listening to you, Cliff. They're not listening to me or T with Tolkien. They're listening to you and Matt, a Nerd of the Rings. Let me bring this picture up. This is from the recent casting announcements. We don't know what character he's playing, but if you look at Caleb Lynch here,
he looks just like Martin Sokas.
He looks just like Martin Sokas, who played Celeborn in Peter Jackson's movies.
In the Fellowship of the Ring, yes.
Right. So there's an absolute intent that I think this is Celeborn right here. I think he's going to be a part of season 2, and I think
that.
And I think that, and I think Nerd of the Rings is in the chat room. Do you agree? Do you think this is Celeborn? And since he has been announced as joining the cast for season 2, that he will join. What does the chat room think? Does this look like Martin Sokas from Fellowship of the Ring?
There's a lot of Nampat. There's a lot of Nampat going on in the chat, which is really awesome. We used to get a lot of Grand. That's what our chat used to always have, was Grand. And now I think it's to the credit of Rings of Power that the Grand, all that grunting that we got for all those years, has now been replaced by orcish grunting of Nampat in our chat.
The most you know what the culture has picked up on. Our meme culture is picking up on the orc culture, and we've talked about this at length in previous shows, that the best realized race of characters in Rings of Power season 1 is the orc culture. And I wish and we know that they have filmed more of it, and a lot of it made the cutting room floor, and I hope at some point there's an extended edition of season 1 where we get more of that orc culture, because in a show called Rings of Power, it's about Sauron and the bad guys, and we're ready to love these orcs. Cliff,
I've especially enjoyed the presentation of Adar and the orcs, and Arondir getting caught up with that, and all that stuff with Adar and him. There was somebody in the chat.
He was a better Sauron than Hellbrand.
Yes. Thank you for saying that. Yeah. Someone in the chat said, remember how great that dialogue was? You don't need to lie to them. Just let it happen. Just let everything fall into place. Just let everything proceed. That's the phrase. Let the work proceed.
Let the work proceed.
That wasn't Adar. Excuse me. That wasn't Adar. That was actually Halbrand who said you needn't lie to them.
But Adar, as written and as edited in the show, was a better Sauron than Halbrand. Cecilia in the chat room says, not Justin claiming fidelity to Tolkien and then saying he's in favor of a romance between Galadriel and Sauron. My loyalty is not to J.R.R. Tolkien. He is an author who hated television and film. He hated it. He hated film, and then he hated television. He sold the rights because he needed the money. So the wise thing that Peter Jackson did was say, look, I'm a film director. I got to make some changes for the medium that I operate in. So my loyalty in this show is not necessarily to Tolkien, a person that despised this medium. So my loyalty is not to Amazon Prime either. And it's not, my loyalty isn't to Peter Jackson either. We are all open to a new take on Middle Earth. My only loyalty is a fun and engaging story that is well written and well executed. My loyalty is to a good show. That's my only loyalty. Tell me good story using the pillars that Tolkien erected. And for some reason, these showrunners decided some of those pillars, like Celeborn's existence, weren't worth supporting anything. So I don't know. I don't know how to feel. More news, Cliff. Fellowship fans leaked some more casting. Cameron Anderson has joined the cast
Mm.
of Rings of Power. And speaking of Nerd of the Rings in the chat room, the he is a spitting image of Elendil. I mean, seriously, he's a spitting image
He
of
is. He really is.
like no
Indeed,
joke.
he is. Not gonna
Like
lie.
so the
Does that
question.
mean we're gonna do flashbacks when we'll have early young, like
What
younger years of him? Or is that supposed to be?
funny you should say
Ah,
that because a lot of people were like, "Is this Anarion? Is this the other son that we haven't met yet?" And my initial reaction was exactly
oh,
like yours, Cliff. My reaction was, that is a flashback.
that my first gut reaction is they would flash back to a younger. I don't know why they would go back to that section of the story, but maybe they would. But if this is supposed to be the other missing brother, then we have Anarion. We have an absolute
Absolute
Anarion.
Anarion.
Absolute because
My
oh,
prediction.
wait, maybe we're supposed to think that Isildur looks more like his mother, and this dude looks more like his father, and that might be part of the rift between them. One of them is a father's boy, one of them was a mama's boy, and there's maybe a little bit of a rift between Anarion and Isildur.
That could be interesting. My more basic theory
Yeah.
is Cliff. We've been talking about the leaks and rumors for season 2, haven't we? That season 2, it's not a leak, it's a rumor. It's not a rumor. The showrunners have told us that season 2 is Sauron's story. Season 2 is going to be all about Sauron and how he got to where he is, and we're going to see Sauron's side of the story. So if that's the case, the rumors we've been reporting is that may include flashbacks, and we may see things from Sauron's past. So this may be a young Elendil that meets up with Halbrand, or another version of Sauron. Maybe not even Halbrand. Maybe this is a young Elendil that meets up with a guy named Anatar, who gets kicked out.
It's still a deep, dark legal question mark that they can't even use the name Anatar properly, right?
Nerd of the Rings is asking that I ship this guy with someone. I don't like this. I don't like this line of talk. Don't make me don't make me kick you. I'll put you on timeout. We're not shipping everything.
That's hilarious.
I'm not about shipping. I'm not. I just wanted Galadriel and Sauron to date. Look, all I wanted was Riverdale in Rivendell. I wanted dating Galadriel and dating Elrond. I wanted to see these kids, and I almost got it. If it wasn't for you pesky lore book lovers.
If I didn't have any hair, if I did have any hair, I'd be pulling it out right now because of you wanting to turn Imladris into the land of high school romance. Gosh, no. Nobody wanted that. Nobody wanted a crazy romance between Sauron and Galadriel. It would just be so off-putting. But
it's not. It's not because this show is meant to be a prequel series to Peter Jackson's cinematic universe.
But
and in
Sauron
Peter
and
Jackson's
Galadriel hooking up is bad fan fiction 101.
But I'm looking at it
$1 billion series. That's not what we want.
I'm looking at it from Peter Jackson's world. Galadriel is never scared of Sauron.
Oh, that's fine that she's not scared of Sauron. She shouldn't be.
Everyone else is. Elrond is. Gandalf is. Everyone in the whole freaking movies is scared of Sauron, except Galadriel.
But we, the audience, should be scared about Atonement Sauron, the Sauron who is trying to get into the good graces of the Valar and to be rehabilitated. If you want to have Sauron going on a rehabilitation tour, it would be because he does something else. He goes as Anatar and seduces the ring makers, the elven ring makers of Eregion. And he seduces intellectually and metaphysically Celebrimbor himself. And he tries to seduce Elrond and Gil-galad over in the land of Lindon. It does not happen because the doors of Linden are shut.
Well,
No
I'm
Anatar
shutting
may
this
pass.
down. I'm shutting this
Don't even
Haladriel
shut this
stuff
down.
down. We're
No,
moving on.
I'm,
We're
I'm
moving
just
on.
saying that we wanted to see, I personally wanted to see season 1 of Rings of Power, and maybe we'll get some more of this in season 2. Maybe it's good news connecting this tissue to what you just reported.
Maybe.
But if
Well,
season 2 is more Sauron centric, we want to see things that we didn't see in season 1, and that's what
that's
Tolkien
exactly
wrote.
what we're getting.
What
All of
Tolkien
all of
wrote.
the rumors are we're gonna get every season 2 is going to be
We'll see.
everything we thought season 1 was going to be about Sauron.
I remain vaguely optimistic. We'll see.
Speaking of optimistic, Cliff, last week on this show, we kind of like blew up the internet a bit with our Green Dragon gossip section.
Oh yes, we did
About
with the
Tom
Tom
Bombadil.
Bombadil.
Now that you've sat with the news for a week, I want your honest opinion. Is Tom Bombadil a good idea for Rings of Power?
He is the most delicious fan service that you could ever ask for, but he is a superfluous character that has been avoided in all other adaptations for a reason. He's been avoided for a reason. He is the most anachronistic, the anachronistic character that Professor Tolkien himself has admitted was the most anachronistic in all of Middle-earth, in all of his legendarium. So I kind of love the idea that a representation of Tom Bombadil would come along, and I just love it because we love the character, and we love how silly and I mean like a level of crazy limerick poetry. I mean, frothy, silly, really silly. Tom Bombadil can be outrageously silly in a way that makes him iconoclastic. Perhaps that he doesn't fit in with the tone, the overall presence.
I think he could.
Arda.
I think he could. There's a lot of he doesn't do that in the Lord of the Rings book or movie, but his existence and his just absence of backstory is fertile land. How is he described? Do you remember how he is described?
What are you going to do with this character? How he's described is as an eccentric, little bit larger than a hobbit, little bit smaller than a dwarf, maybe, running around, a guy in the wilderness, out in the forest, singing songs to the rocks and the trees. If you want to get into the intellectual grit for only 2 seconds, most hardcore academic fans appreciate and understand Iarwain ben Adar, oldest and fatherless, Tom Bombadil, who is called that by the elves, Iarwain ben Adar. And that's where you hear the name Adar without the father. They think that Tom Bombadil might be just the depiction of nature itself, like the Gaia spirit, the intrinsic being, which is the anthropomorphic personification of nature itself, while others in the sphere of academia purport that Tom Bombadil is Eru Iluvatar, that he is the one god above all other Valar, and that he has taken this amusing little amusement of a novelty manifestation as Tom Bombadil. But the real story is something far more simple and more interesting. Tom Bombadil was a bunch of poetry that Tolkien wrote to amuse his children, and it was all about a little rag doll. There was a cute little funny rag doll that had a hat and a little feather in it and little yellow boots. And there was something in one of Tolkien's biography pages about one time the doll got stuck in the toilet and clogged up the plumbing in the family home. I mean, the Tom Bombadil poetry was all about, introducing a nonsense, very lyrical, poetic character who bounces around on lily pads and sings songs trill-la-la-lally all day long. Why don't we dance the Springle Ring with Tom Bombadil? That's what it was. Then, weirdly enough, John Ronald Reuel Tolkien decides to put Tom Bombadil into the narrative of the Lord of the Rings, when previously had just been a bunch of fun poems. But you can get your hands on the book, The Adventures of Tom Bombadil, and it also includes a piece of poetry that Samwise Gamgee wrote, a little fun poem about Tom Bombadil and his adventure with the old stone troll. It's one of my favorite pieces, but it's all fun and light. It's very lyrical. It's not serious. And because it is not serious, it doesn't exactly fit within the rest of Middle-earth. And that's why including it in the season 2 of Rings of Power is such an odd and yet fascinating choice.
Well, and this is
fan
why
service.
I'm really excited about that, because one of my biggest complaints about season 1 is it's freaking boring and it takes itself too seriously. There's nothing fun and fancy free. Like none of the Harfoots are having fun. They're all like living a hard nomadic life. No one's having fun in season 1. What I like about Tom joining season 2, maybe, is he brings a little bit of chaos. Someone in the chat room said he should be the Stan Lee of Middle Earth and just show up as cameos every once in a while. I agree. I think he should be the Deadpool. I think Tom Bombadil is so godlike. Maybe he breaks the fourth wall. Maybe he talks to the audiences. Maybe he knows everything about everything. Maybe he comes across Elrond in season 2 and says, that Mithril story is bull, and you know it, and just basically,
hey now, that's cool. That's really cool.
I also
is the spirit of Earth. Imagine him having a greater wisdom that the elves could learn from.
And I like your idea of like he is nature incarnate, because Tom brings an opportunity to introduce the Ents, and maybe no one speaks Entish yet and the Entwives, but Tom could be an early shepherd, or he could know the shepherds of the forest. So Tom could be our human contact to a whole storyline with trees and Ents, and how the Numenorians are deforesting Middle Earth to build all the ships that they want.
That has to be a big theme. You know what? Farazan makes reference to that in season 1, that he's after the available minerals and ores and the land, the arable land. And he says that's what he's after. Colonial expansionism is written all over that character.
That's
so
right.
Watch what he does in season 2.
And Numenorians end up deforesting a lot of Middle Earth. Also, we get to, and credit to Nerd of the Rings, coincidentally, he posted a Tom Bombadil video on this weekend, which you need to go check. 10 minutes of the history of Tom Bombadil. But at the Council of Elrond, of Elrond, Peter Jackson took out the dialogue because, of course, he had cut out Tom Bombadil. But in the books, Elrond and Gandalf both mentioned Tom Bombadil at the Council of Elrond. They're like, hey, why is Frodo taking it? Why don't we get Tom over here? Tom can take the ring to Mordor.
And Gandalf says he doesn't care about such things in the world. Admitting, Gandalf just admits that he's a chaos agent, and he would forget about it. Gandalf admits that Tom Bombadil wouldn't take a care, and the ring would not corrupt him or seduce him, but he would lose it. He would drop it and forget that he even had it. He wouldn't care. He's so disconnected from those concerns of the world, which
I love this character already for season
really
2.
Interesting.
Rings of Power needs this chaos agent.
I don't know what you're gonna do with him, because he's
sing merry old songs, and not give a shit about anything.
There are things that are cut out of the Lord of the Rings adaptations every single time, and it's Tom Bombadil that's always cut out every single time.
Pontin in the chat room, Cliff. Pontin in the chat room says Tom could be the music itself.
Meaning the music of the Ainur, just the music of the universe?
Maybe.
Sure. Yeah, that's awesome. Maybe he's a fascinating and unusual manifestation of just the music itself. And maybe that's why he's always singing. Maybe that's why he's always singing all the time and is always musically inclined. I like that idea.
Otaku Senpai says the elves are the ones that taught the trees to talk, taught language to the Ents.
That's right. Yeah, the elves taught the trees that, yes.
So I wonder if Tom Bombadil can facilitate that. Like, the men of Numenor are deforesting, the trees need to take a stand, but they don't know how to talk.
Well, when Meteor Man was flying over the sky in season 1, we saw the Ents. So they exist already. One could assume...
And Tom speaks all languages.
but we have to assume that the Ents learned to be more mobile and to talk thousands of years earlier in the first age. Justin, that's a first age assumption that the Ents have had relations with the Eldar.
Timelines don't matter, dude. You can't. We're beyond that. We're beyond the timeline conversation. Anything's game.
No, it's not.
Well, coincidentally,
no, it's not.
Cliff, separately from our show last week, Dr. Nosy, who is a moderator in our chat room, in our Discord, decided to post. She had got, or they, Dr. Nosy, posted on Twitter that Errol Pram is the code name, the production code name for Tom Bombadil, and then they post this meme of Halbrand saying, "I've been awake since the breaking of the first silence," which he tells to Galadriel. And Tom Bombadil says, "Do not cite the first music to me, sorcerer. I was there when it was sung." So I like this. So that's the big supporting rumor of all this. Cliff, do you know who the #1 actor that Reddit and Twitter and our own forums thought should be Tom Bombadil?
Oh yeah, everybody talks about it. It's what's his name? That guy from the
Jack
Vampire
Black.
Show. No.
It is Jack Black. That was the first thought, and I thought, and because Jack Black has a band, he can sing. He is chaotic. He is chaos, and now he's got this like big wispy gray beard. I totally see Jack Black.
People are talking about the guy from the Vampire Show. What We Do in the Dark.
What We Do in the Shadows. That is Matt Berry.
Matt Berry, yeah, Matthew Berry. Forgive me, my brain isn't working. Everybody wants Matt Berry to be Tom Bombadil. That's Cliff, all I keep hearing on the internet.
Well, I have some audio for you, Cliff.
Let's have it.
I don't know if I can send it over Zoom. You might have to just listen to it on the YouTube stream.
Okay.
Ready?
Okay.
I'll play it right now.
Okay,
folks, this is Matt Berry quoting Tom Bombadil.
Whoa, whoa, steady there now, my little fellows. Where be you a-going to, puffing like a bellows? What's the matter here, then? Do you know who I am? I'm Tom Bombadil, you bunch of hobbitches. Whoa, whoa, steady there now, my little fellows. Where be you a-going to, puffing like a bellows? What's the matter here, then? Do you know who I am? I'm Tom Bombadil, you bunch of hobbitches.
All right, there you go. Whoa, whoa. That is Matt Berry as Tom Bombadil. That is a tease.
That's awesome. He's awesome at that. Yeah, he'd be great at that. He'd be great.
That is a tease. I think Matt Berry would be an awesome.
I think ultimately a role like that could be an unknown, a complete unknown actor who is brilliant could take that role and make something quite interesting of it. But it is fan service. I don't know what the presence of Bombadil would do in terms of it's not like Rings of Power has a very propulsive narrative. It's not how it's supposed to be. There's much more of a relaxed approach and a very Tolkien-esque approach to that storytelling. It's much more breathable in Rings of Power, which I really like. That's a quality that I like about it. And I don't know if Tom is going to help the plot. What's he going to do? I mean, we've had some interesting speculations in the past few minutes, but I wonder to myself if it's as necessary as it is. It's more necessary to get Anatar right and to get the idea of Sauron duping people into making Rings of Power and the relationship with the Elven Smiths of Eregion. All that stuff is what we're really after. But if Tom Bombadil is really there, I'm not going to say no. I'm probably going to be as delighted as anyone, although I still have some some questions about it.
Well, Cliff, I took it another step. So with the big news of Tom Bombadil, Demosthenes posted a wonderful article that basically captured everything. The problem was that other than that photo, that drawing from 2003 by John Howe of Tom Bombadil, every image of Tom Bombadil is like Brothers Hildebrandt 1970s, like it's all very cartoonish.
Did you see that Weta made a card design for the collectible card game? You know, the one that Nicholas Holt loves to play. It was published by Decipher, and guess what? That is a Decipher card of Tom Bombadil, and the artwork is a photo of a guy in costume of what Weta would have designed if they did have Tom Bombadil in the trilogy. Yeah, you got to see it. Let me pull it up for you. I'm going to find it for you. Okay?
Yeah, well, Cliff, while you're bringing that up, let me pull up this. Folks, I decided to go use one of those artificial intelligent image generators that you keep hearing about, you know, AI and machine learning. And I put in what would Tom Bombadil look in a Zack Snyder movie. So I wanted to get some ideas for Tom Bombadil as a modern film character. So I said movie poster Tom Bombadil. Here's what the artificial intelligence gave me. That's the first get. And the thing with AI is that you basically give it text prompts. You type in what you want, and then you revise your text around that. You're like, all right, well, if that's the result of the AI, let me change some words and let me change some details. So this is the movie poster that the AI gave me for Tom Bombadil. Pretty good first crack. I would.
Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. I'm just sending you this. Okay.
Okay.
All right. I just sent you the link. Here it is, and the subject is TB, and that's not tuberculosis. That's TB for Tom Bombadil. All right, now check that out and show everybody what I just showed you.
All right.
Oh, and is this your AI? Oh, wow, look at this. This AI version of Tom.
The chat room says looks like Red Dead Redemption. Again, the AI. I don't know what the AI has been trained on, what its source knowledge is based on. Probably video games, probably movies. So I did another thing. It's interesting that it gave me the name.
He looks too young. He looks too young, way too young. This AI has given you a Tom Bombadil that is way, way, way too young. And to tell you the truth, this next one is also too young. And they all look like they're lumberjack advertisements for lumberjacks. And like, are they trying to sell some kind of men's soap? Some kind of over
This one has a wizardly look.
What is that?
This one has a wizard look, a very kind of a rock star wizard, kind of black crows.
No, he definitely looks like 1970s rock and roll. That's a 70s.
That's a 1970. So I think the AI was
cover.
Yeah, I think the AI was looking at what are the existing photos of Tom Bombadil. They're all from the 1970s, right? Brothers Hildebrandt and everything. So I think they referenced all this artwork from the 70s. And then when I said try to make it look like a modern movie poster.
Oh, did someone say ZZ Top? Yeah, that's someone in the chat said looks like sharp dressed man ZZ Top. That's hilarious.
Imran in the chat room says this one looks a little bit like John Lennon. But I think we got closer when I changed some figures. Oh wait, there's one more. This one is interesting. Someone said Red Dead Redemption.
Right.
Again, these guys like they're not cherubic. But Cliff, the descriptions we have of Tom Bombadil are all from the Third Age. What would young Tom Bombadil look like? Second Age Tom Bombadil.
If you're going to assume that he is oldest and fatherless, I would assume that he doesn't age. I would assume that there would be no physical aspect of Tom Bombadil that changes. If he lives
Jeremiah Johnson, I would a meme of Jeremiah Johnson of Tom Bombadil nodding at you like Robert Redford with that big beard in Jeremiah Johnson. But Cliff, I think we got closer with my final AI output.
He would never be young, right, chat? I think he'd be ageless and would never change.
This is the final AI output.
The one that looks like Nick Offerman? It's Nick Offerman. Wow, that's awesome. That is
How do you
Nick
like that?
Offerman. That is so hilarious. Do you know
I
what?
could see Nick Offerman as Tom Bombadil.
Easily. I could see Nick Offerman as Tom Bombadil. Yeah, he could totally do that. That's pretty cool, actually. That's pretty funny. I like that.
So, folks in the chat room, we've seen Jack Black with the big gray beard. We've heard Matt Berry. And now we've seen a depiction of a Nick Offerman type.
Take a look at the Weta page that I sent you, because there's the guy in makeup in the makeup chair
Where did you send it?
Send it to your email.
Oh, email.
And yeah, send it to your email. And those Weta artists are doing beard and makeup on an actor who would never be on screen. It was only for the card, the playing card. I mean, it's in the collectible card game that everybody knows. But take a look at that. Show everybody.
All right, I'm bringing it up. I thought you were texting me.
No. It's really amazing that these people went to the effort to create a Tom Bombadil, an authentic Weta version of Tom, and he was just in the card game, and he was never ever on film.
Where'd the photo go?
Did you find it? It's a full Google search page that I sent you.
Yeah, but it's tiny. Hold on, let me see if I can make this bigger. All right.
Oh, I thought you were going to see a whole web page with lots of images that you'd show everybody. Okay. All right, let's see what we got. There he is.
Andy Serkis should be Tom Bombadil. Honestly, I'm not opposed.
Yeah, Andy Serkis would be great at that.
Really Aravandi says Nick Offerman would love to be in something Lord of the Rings related. He is a fan, apparently. So this is the Weta Workshop came up for Tom Bombadil. Folks, close personal friend Nick Offerman, friend of the family. Not yet friend of the show. We haven't had him on. Haven't had a reason to yet. But I can confirm that he is a huge Lord of the Rings fan. He reads Lord of the Rings every year. And Amazon, if you're watching, if you're listening, Amazon, I hear me clearly.
Okay,
Nick
I just
Offerman,
texted you this.
Nick Offerman as Tom Bombadil. I don't care who you cast already. I don't care how much you've filmed already. You can reshoot it. Nick Offerman as Tom Bombadil. I promise you. He's the guy that you can send to all the talk shows for the marketing. You know, hey, today on Colbert, Nick Offerman, hot off his new role.
That would be actually super cool. That would be cool to see Nick Offerman. But, you know, I love the idea of Andy Serkis casting as well. I sent you the card. It's a really cool design.
There you go.
And I would love to have a copy of that card. It's a very powerful card to play in the game. Well, you know, this excitement of having Tom Bombadil and also the new casting announcement. Thank you, Fellowship of Fans, yet again, of, you know, the new casting announcement clues us in that Celeborn, who was talked about, is definitely coming into season 2. Hey, look at that. There's that trading card. That is what Weta would have done if Tom showed up in Peter Jackson's original trilogy. That's the character we would have had.
Dan in the chat room says this show needs a big name. I agree. I've said that. Remember, I said that the Blue Wizards should be huge names in certain countries. Like get the biggest Chinese actor ever. Get the biggest Iranian or Arabic actor out there. Get some big names for the Blue Wizards. But Nick Offerman as Tom Bombadil is the type of big name that is perfect because he could pop in, do a thing, and pop out in one episode. But he's made his mark.
The memes. Oh my gosh, I just realized that. If we do really get any little appearances of Tom Bombadil anywhere in season 2, even if it's to warn the Numenorians about their deforestation and to warn or have involvement with the Ents and the Ent wives, or to perhaps help, our little Harfoot on her journey with the little stranger who may or may not be a wizard of a certain name. Interesting things can happen. But
out of the new castings,
the memes would be nuts. They would be crazy.
Out of the new castings, I would say that this guy Nicholas Woodson, has potential. He's got an old, you put a little beard on him, and a funny little hat and some yellow boots. I could see a grandpa type figure that is the size of Nori coming into play. That could be fun. The other one from the new casting is this guy, Kevin Eldon. He's done some comedic roles. He's been on Doctor Who and stuff like that. But there's something so dark and I don't know. There's something about him that is just dark and mischievous, and I don't know. But
we need to meet certain rulers of men in certain areas as they travel. And these are rulers of men who will ultimately be receiving 9 rings.
Dr. Nosy in the chat room says Woodson here, Nicholas Woodson, is Diarmid, codename Diarmid, a human character. Fellowship of Fans is reporting that this guy is a human, and his codename is Diarmid. So we know that Errol Pram is the code name for the character, so that's definitely not Cliff. So
it's so intriguing, isn't it? This is very intriguing stuff. And I love what our friend Tree Herder had suggested Giancarlo Esposito as an additional great casting for a wizard or an Easton.
Oh yeah, he'd be a good wizard. The final thing on before we move on Tom Bombadil. I'm really excited for the character. Someone in the chat room said, what if he's not in the show? This is 2 hours wasted. To that point, again, Nosy and Fellowship of Fans and whoever else, they're getting their own sources that are saying, hey, the code name for Tom Bombadil is this. We have our own sources that have spotted Tom on set, whatever actor. Folks, when we posted this news article last week leaking Tom Bombadil, crew members on Rings of Power liked the post.
Crew members working on the show liked the post.
Crew members working on the show liked the Tom Bombadil post.
That's awesome. Do you know what they want? You know what that means? They want us to be excited, and they want us to know. They want the fandom to be all abuzz. Ooh, hey, Tom Bombadil, for real? And his boots are yellow. Oh yeah, that's the conversation they want all of us to be doing, and it's working. We are doing that. That's exactly what we're doing. Do you know one of my favorite conversations I ever used to have was when we talked about Robin Williams having appeared when he was still with us, how he would have been the very best Tom Bombadil that Peter Jackson could have put in his original trilogy. Do you remember talking about that?
Yeah.
Several years ago? That would have been the best. But here's our chance now. Don't listen to me complain about him being a superfluous character, but I think we should all keep in mind that he is an iconoclast. Within the rest of Middle-earth, he is the square peg that you cannot put into the round hole. All right, that's Tom Bombadil. And perhaps we should also understand that that's intentionally done by Tolkien himself. And he was very, very amused at putting one of his children's favorite toys inside Lord of the Rings and have him break the rules of Sauron's power, and to have him appear as an essential mystery in the story. So much so that so mysterious is he that Elrond and Galadriel have to have dialogue to explain to the reader many chapters later that, no, we can't really rely on him. He's something of a floating spirit. He's the ultimate free radical, so to speak. Tom Bombadil cannot be given the ring. And that's it. Tolkien set us up for having this mystery of a character in his narrative. And now, whatever the showrunners are going to do, I kind of get the sense they have carte blanche to do anything they want with the character. Because if he really is the personification of Iluvatar, or if he really is the personification of Mother Nature or Father Nature, in this case, whatever, it's not important. The fact that he's a nature spirit, that means they've got carte blanche to take this character anywhere in the land, anywhere on any continent, anywhere on the planet of Arda, and they can pretty much do anything they want. So let's see what happens.
You reminded me, Cliff. Robin Williams, rest in peace. I was listening to Tim Heidecker's podcast this week with Bobcat Goldthwait, and both friends with Robin Williams. And anyway, on the podcast, they tell a story of, like, one of his, if you really got him to talk about something he loved, he had this phrase. He always had this phrase, like, hey, did you like that? And he would always say, oh, big time. Big time. That was his phrase, to know that you're talking about something that he genuinely likes. Yeah. And nice. I remember before, when he gave us Zelda Williams, his daughter's contact info to be on the podcast, I had said, I had asked him, I'm like, Lord of the Rings, Tom Bombadil, would you? And Robin looks at me and says, big time.
He did say that to you, didn't he? Wow.
So,
wow.
It's so just one of those moments where it's like, I just heard this week's Tim Heidecker, Bobcat Goldthwait podcast. They're like, if you really got him in an authentic space, he used that phrase big time. Mm-hmm. And when I brought up Tom Bombadil, because he was like the dream fan casting ever since 1999.
Always.
And we
did have a wonderful conversation with Zelda. That conversation with Zelda was a great interview, and I'm still proud of it. That was good stuff.
Yeah, and I think it's on our YouTube channel. I have it archived somewhere.
We got to get it. We got to get it out there.
Zelda Williams, friend of the show.
And by extension, Robin Williams, a Ringer fan, a fellow Tolkien nerd, just like all of us. And isn't that the coolest?
But that's Nick Offerman right now, as Tolkien described, red cherubic face, a little pudgy, short, with a big presence, and he can sing. I'm telling you, Nick Offerman, folks. Like,
show it again.
Oh man, let me bring it up. Come on. Imagine Gandalf and Nori bumping into this guy who's talking to some trees that no one knows how to talk to trees. No one knows you could talk to trees. And this guy's talking to trees. He's like, oh, hey, how's it going? Hey, you're not from around here. Did I see you fall in the sky? And Tom Bombadil is the type of character that would help Stella get her groove back. That would help Gandalf remember who you are.
Hey, there you go. Now you're talking.
Tom Bombadil is the character that can help Gandalf realize who he is and his potential, his full magical potential. And I can see this man respectfully loving Goldberry and fearing Goldberry.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
His eyes look like the light of a Luvatar. So, folks, like, man, we can do fan casting all day long. We could,
but that's a good one. That's one of the best. That's one of the best.
I am begging the powers of Amazon. This show needs star power in some capacity. It needs a star. Even if it's just a single episode bit character sudden in and out.
Funny.
Nick Offerman or Matt Berry.
That's
for
so funny.
Tom Bombadil.
And hey, how about Brian Blessed? Yeah, Otaku Senpai, that's not a bad idea. Brian Blessed could play him. That'd be great.
I think he's too old. I think that's the easy. I think that's always been like the fallback for older fans.
We're ultimately going to get one of these actors that we're looking at in season 2, who will eventually be the mouth of Sauron. Somebody on Numenor who will be really, really close with Pharazôn and will be very, very anti the Valar and pro Sauron when it comes down to it. So we should also be looking out for these other characters that are going to be familiar in The Lord of the Rings, and they're going to show up way early on the radar in season 2. And it's not just Tom Bombadil. I think we should keep the lookout for one of Sauron's main lieutenants who will be the mouth of Sauron. And that is why the showrunners admitted season 2 is going to be all Sauron-centric. So we need to keep our eyes peeled for all this stuff.
Cliff,
okay?
Question from the chat. Goldberry. Do we have any idea if Goldberry is as old as Tom Bombadil?
She is the Riverman's daughter, so I believe she is a river spirit. And therefore, if she is a river spirit, she's not mortal, and so it could be any number of things. Would
you be open? I am. I would be. Would it be potentially accepted if Tom Bombadil and Goldberry are an LGBTQ couple?
I don't know why not, because they're not human. But
they're not human.
It could be something that wouldn't even be interpolated in a way that would be referential to our gender and our relationships in the primary world.
If he is actually a god, he's genderless.
Well, look at the way Neil Gaiman represents Lucifer Morningstar and the other archangels who show up in The Sandman. They are represented as genderless. And the best visualization you got of that was in the Keanu Reeves movie Constantine, where Tilda Swinton shows up as Gabriel, and she's completely androgynous, an androgyne. And because Gabriel as an archangel is represented as an androgyne without gender, then you might be in the same relative story area where, but you know, the way that Goldberry and Tom are represented in the poetry and in the books is that they are distinctly cisgendered man and wife. And that's pretty much the way it is. Therefore, there isn't much of a need to be amorphous. You don't need to really adapt it and then say, we're going to make all of this gender stuff amorphous and mix up the bag a little bit. You don't need to do that because, you know, even if they are a spirit of the earth and a spirit of the river, they're still their anthropomorphic manifestations are cisgendered to every everything we have in front of us.
Obviously,
that's how it is.
And the chat room has reminded us that Goldberry is stunningly beautiful bottle blonde, stunningly, sickeningly pretty. Goldberry is a beautiful river spirit. That's not to say that it can't be two non-gendered people, Goldberry and Tom. That's not to say a male actor could not be
Well,
beautiful and blonde.
I think some of the comedy is that Tom Bombadil is a little bit surprised that Goldberry would love him and would be interested in him. And so he's really, really hardworking to make her happy. And all he cares about is making her happy, bringing her lilies and bringing her flowers and herbs and taking care of her and making things peaceful in the old forest. He really wants to, he really is happy. And he basically, I get the sense that Tom Bombadil thinks that he's like a 3 or a 4 and she's an 11. And because I think he's got that interesting relationship with her. It's really funny and charming. It's really charming.
This show has 5 seasons plus spin-offs. We're talking hours and hours and hours and hours of content. There's an opportunity to introduce Tom Bombadil season 2 and show him meeting Goldberry, and that courtship could be a nice little side button. I mean, it may be 1 episode per season. 1 episode per season, and not even the full focus of an episode. It's literally like just a tiny little Tolkien-inspired side story of Tom Bombadil inserted, trying to be inserted into the narrative and totally refusing because he's distracted over this beautiful river goddess. Like he can't be bothered with this Sauron dude or Anatar, this androgynous Anatar dude. Like he's got his eyes set on this river. There's something interesting there. If you need a writer in the writer's room, you know where to get me.
Hey, Cecilia says that they are the manifestation of the balance of life in Arda. And I love that. That's a great and very succinct way to conceptualize these.
Sigurboy in the chat room says, because if you want to do fan service, give us the Ents. Here's the thing. This is why I think Tom Bombadil's a strong potential character to be our introduction to the Ents.
Right.
Whether they talk or not. I can imagine they only speak Elvish at this point. So, so if Nori and Gandalf stumble into some Ents, they can't communicate because they don't speak Elvish.
Maybe the stranger does, suddenly.
But Tom would help him remember.
Yes, of course. You know what? If he really is Olorin, then he would remember the Elvish that he knew back in Valinor.
Young Man Willow?
Young Man Willow. Before he becomes an old man Willow. That's funny.
There's a lot of opportunity here. Anyway, I think these latest rumors and leaks are absolutely fantastic.
I agree.
And in the right direction. I don't know what just happened.
What just happened? I see your... Are you still there? Well, I'm still here, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I'm still here. Anyway, we got to wrap up the show. I wasn't expecting to talk about Tom and Haladriel so much. So the hits keep coming. Fellowship fans is still leaking stuff. We're still getting whispers of stuff. We'll have more. By the way, final thought for the night, and this is a perfect segue to you closing the show, is that we can confirm that the motion and stunt, the motion expert, what do they call that? The people that help
the motion capture,
not motion capture, but the teaching the orcs how to walk.
Performance. It's performance capture artist.
Performance artist. Yeah,
the movement coach. The
movement coach. The stunt coordinator and movement coach on the new horror movie Megan is none other than our friend Jed Brophy. Jed Brophy instructed the tiny little actress that plays the doll. He is the movement coach for Megan. So if you go see Megan this week, you will see the work of Jed Brophy teaching her how to be a little loose, a little tight in the joints.
He's so cool. Jed Brophy's the coolest. Man, is there anything he cannot do?
It's so cool, I hope he can get on season 2 because he's a fan favorite. Producers, make it happen. Jed
He
Brophy
needs to be on
season 2.
Jed Brophy on season 2, or we boycott. We boycott. Okay.
Well, I
hey,
wouldn't go that.
everybody. Hey, it's a wonderful Tuesday to have you all with us. But now, as we all know, all good things must come to an end. Oops, I'm quoting Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Otaku Senpai says I promised Green Dragon Gossip for War of the Rohirrim.
You did? Do we have any? Because I gotta go.
Yeah. All right. Real quick, I'll give you guys one little thing, and then we'll hold it for a future episode. One little thing. And this portends to a bigger conversation that we'll have later. It is our current understanding, our little whispers on the wind. Green Dragon Gossip might not be true. It might be true. It's Green Dragon Gossip here at the Green Dragon Inn. Amazon and Warner Brothers have made a deal on War of the Rohirrim. Amazon Prime will be the exclusive streaming home of War of the Rohirrim. Whether that will be during theatrical release or after theatrical release, it is our understanding that Amazon and Warner Brothers are playing nice.
That is an intriguing rumor.
The first movie to come out from Lord of the Rings, this War of the Rohirrim, is going to be produced by New Line Cinema, theatrically distributed by Warner Brothers, and home streaming distributed by Amazon Prime, not HBO.
Intriguing. That could be very interesting.
So,
what an interesting rumor. Okay, well, let's close the show with that rumor because I've got to go. I literally have to run.
Gotta go. Close it out, Cliff.
That's an intriguing rumor. We'll have more next week. Everybody, take good care of yourselves and be gentle with one another and be safe wherever you are. And we'll see you next time, 5:00 p.m., right here for Torn Tuesday. Until then, good night and good luck. Or better yet, buenas noches y buena suerte. Damn, I almost got it. Buenas noches y buena suerte. Bye, everybody.